Hey there, Toonami faithful, and welcome back aboard Toonami Absolution, where we talk about the shows that made us us and made you you. Once again, we are your hosts. My name is Alex.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John. Transformers Beast Wars. Beast Wars Part 1 and Beast Wars Part 2 were in September 16th, September 17th, 1996. Ooh.
Yeah.
Alex,
So
this is on your soul.
yeah, this was your pick. These are part of the shows that made you you.
As if
So
the hair didn't tip out off enough how weird I was. Um, I'm going to say this, and it is going to be a controversial statement. The Transformers franchise in modern day United States, in the modern day world, is equivalent to the Iliad and the Odyssey. Now, let me explain to you why this is an epic poetry sort of franchise. When you look at the Transformers franchise, at the end of the day, it is about one very simple thing. It is about the loss that war incurs. Now, all wars are civil wars because all men are brothers. That's the whole idea, right? And as you go into the comics for Transformers and you go into later iterations, the show and the franchise gets really dark, it gets really deep, but it had to start somewhere. And here's Beast Wars. Beast Wars is one of those formative experiences that sits in my mind and has turned me into the weirdo that I am today. Not just because of the janky 90s CGI, not just because of the weird animation, but because of the timeline. And when you guys have inevitable questions, I am here to answer them. So let's get the breakdown, John.
Well, good news. Half my notes are questions. Yeah, I mean, this starts off, we're in space, we're having a bit of a fight. A lot of shouting, a lot of guns being fired, and then we crash onto what I believe is a map from Halo 2. We pull ourselves out, decide that we must become monkey via scanners, and then we sort of have a bit of a fight over a mountain of energon, which I know that about Transformers. Energon is their fuel source, but also too much of it is a bad thing. So maybe this is a dieting metaphor. Uh,
so, yeah.
I'll point out these episodes are only 20 minutes long each. They're quite short. They're only 5 minutes longer than the Space Ghost episode. But after watching these two together, it felt like 2 hours. I felt myself. They throw a
Well,
lot at you in a very
yeah.
short space of time.
Oh yeah.
90s CG is expensive, so you can only produce so much at a clip. Um, this is, if I recall, technically the G1 continuity, just centuries in the future, where they're all like, let's become animals instead of various kinds of vehicles for some reason.
Kinda. Here's the thing. That's a big kinda. So they land on Earth. Waspinator does become God later. We do need to keep this in mind. The Autobots and the Decepticons are currently on Earth, but they are asleep in the Ark and in the Nemesis. Technically, this is taking place in the past. However, later on, Starscream's actual ghost is going to go back in time.
Uh-huh. Uh,
Okay. So what caught me off guard was before we started recording this, I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk about Optimus Prime becoming Monkey. And Alex went, oh, that's not Optimus Prime. That's Optimus Primal. Different dude. And since then, my entire worldview has been slowly crumbling. Because I was like, oh, because I thought Waspinator was Starscream.
No,
No,
Dinobot
okay.
is Dinobot is our Starscream for the purposes of the show. Like there are very specific dynamics that always exist in Transformers. It's kind of like in Star Trek. There will always be a Kirk, a Spock, and a McCoy, right? In Transformers, there will always be an Optimus and his Ironhide, which in this particular case is Tankor and not Tankor. I can't I
Inox.
Rhinox.
yeah.
Rhinox, and then his Bumblebee, which is Cheetor. And then in the Decepticon side, you will always have a Megatron and you will always have a Starscream. And then everybody else kind of moves in between that. Scorponok is kind of Shockwave, but not really. But Dinobot is the most important character here.
Certainly in these two episodes, right? Because it's like,
He raises the most questions for me.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, if you haven't, maybe Alex is better suited to say this. This takes place in a continuity where the Transformers transform into animals. The um, Autobots are the Maximals, and the Decepticons are the Predacons in this timeline universe continuity. Optimus Prime is a different character. It's Optimus Primal in the Beast Wars world.
Their
There you
cousins.
go.
Megatron is now no longer a gun. He's a well, he hasn't been a gun for a while, but now he's a T-Rex, and
Yay.
then they fight.
And the main point of this episode is basically we're having sort of inter-ranks because the Rats does not like that Optimus Prime nearly got him killed. Fair on him. And then the Dino guy's like, hello, I'm going to become your leader now. And they have a bit of a fight about it. So what really threw me here is episode 2, Dinobot says, for this moment, I have reprogrammed my transformation announcement from the evil one to the good one. This means it's something they pick. This means at some point there was a meeting on both sides to just did they get like the PR people in? Like is there like a version of Mad Men where it's just like Don Draper pitching to this Megatron like, you know what you want? You want terrorize. You could go for killing, but that's a bit too round. It doesn't sound as good. Terrorize.
So I actually can explain this. And I'm kind of mad that I can explain it. So for those of you who don't know, in the wider continuity of Transformers, the Decepticons, their battle cry as opposed to Transformers roll out is Decepticons rise up. That's because the Decepticon movement started as a very anti-establishment, anti-slavery movement on the planet of Cybertron. So that was actually part of Megatron's backstory. Was coming up with this movement. Like Megatron's whole story in the main continuity is you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain kind of idea. And James Roberts does a fantastic job with this in Lost Light and More Than Meets the Eye. Fantastic comics. If you've never read them, if you like Star Trek and giant robots and crying, you like these comics. But that's why the Maximals and the Predacons also have their own little side notes here, because this is well after the point where Megatron has gone fully off the deep end and has decided to murder all organic life in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's you mentioned this is Earth. Actually, did make the gold disc finally make sense. That's a nice touch. Basically, what the Megatron stole a gold disc that shows where a load of Energon is, but clearly that's the gold disc we all sent up into space at some point.
In the 70s, as
In the
part of
70s.
Voyager 1.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to remember what was on it. It was DNA, a picture of a man. Was there
Here Comes the
music on?
Sun, I want to say.
That I think, yeah. It's that or Bowie, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice to see Transformers is teaching our children the important lessons.
The time cadence of everything is kind of wild when it comes to Beast Wars specifically, because it is part of the G1 continuity, but it exists in a very weird time space area. It can be difficult when you haven't watched the whole series in a while, and it has been a couple of years for me since I've watched Beast Wars from beginning to end. So I'm catching up too.
The question: is there any like I know after this show that Japan gets an animated sequel,
Beast Machines?
Do we ever get like a Pretty Cure All Stars where it's Truck Optimus and Ape Optimus teaming up to do whatever an ape and a truck would do?
That was one of the latest live action movies, actually. That was they did like a Beast Wars movie with Optimus Prime.
This may surprise you, but I've not seen that.
And
the last live action one.
And in the comics, the Beast Wars, the Beast Wars Transformers are actually a colonized offshoot. Like they're a different evolutionary stream of Cybertronian. Man, you don't even know what we have unlocked with letting me talk about.
Going to need a flow chart at some point.
In the context of Toonami, I remember seeing I remember seeing episodes of Beast Wars here and there, because it would always just kind of like you'd have to sit through Beast Wars to get to like Dragon Ball or something. Like I'm trying to remember what the programming lineup was at that time. Yeah, because I remember seeing the bumps and like Tom introduced Beast Wars, and yeah, it was was a whole thing.
I literally only remember seeing any of Beast Wars once, and I only remember seeing one scene, and that is a spider thing transforming into something else and then transforming straight back again.
Was it tarantulas?
It has to be, I presume, because there's only one
It's
spider.
great.
But
Tarantulas.
the only memory in my head is that he transforms and then just immediately not transforms again. So I just, as a kid, I remember going, well, that was pointless.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of pointless transformations in Beast Wars. It's an interesting show to kind of talk about because Transformers as a franchise, right? You know, it was very, very big in the 80s, and then you have the death of Optimus Prime, and then it fades into the comics, and then we get back to we get to Beast Wars, which is a very 90s interpretation of Transformers because it's new toys. Everything involving Transformers is always about making new toys. And this particular show does a very good job with making models that actually kind of corresponded to the toys at the time. Like, if you look at the way Cheetor's pieces move when he moves between his maximal and his uh animal form, they work the same way as in the toy, which is kind of that's pretty much one of the first and only times that happens. So the show, while being deeply confusing at the top, has a lot of very interesting little quality points to it that are, if you're not a massive Transformers nerd like me, kind of can fly under the radar.
Mm.
Sam is so excited to talk about Beast Wars.
I am brimming with
My
excitement.
Consciousness is melting.
It's like, yeah, if I remember correctly, time travel's at play. So wait, is it at the future or well, I guess we'll get there.
We will get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
fine. It's fine. In 2 seasons, we'll reveal the War Optimus killed the Daleks, and then he's going to come and fix everything. It's fine.
That's a different comic book.
Oh God damn it!
Yeah.
One thing that just
yeah, no,
really amused me about this was just how quickly we established that we've landed. We're going to scan local animals and pick whatever we get. No strategy. But what's really funny to me is that they do the whole thing of we don't know what this planet is. Apparently, we know what the animals are called, though, because we name ourselves after them.
So I can explain that too.
Please do before I say something horribly nerdy.
So the scanning of the animals that they just kind of pick, that is part of being on a new planet for Cybertronians. It's later called a T-cog or a transformation cog, where on the planet it's considered. Oh man, I'm watching you guys watch me and being like, God, she knows too much about this.
I know a few people have taken a T-cog.
On their own planet, it's about mobility and about, you know, your place in the caste system of Cybertron, which exists. But when they go to other planets, and they're robots in disguise, so they kind of pick what works best with what their Cybertronian form more closely related. So, for example, Rat Trap is small. He is a smaller dude. He's probably closer to one of the cassette formers or a monoformer that we saw in G1. So picking a rat makes sense. Cheetor probably closer to one of the Lamborghini twins of Sunstreaker and Sideswipe, where he's probably a faster car. Hence, he's a cheetah. You know what I mean?
Okay. I was sitting there thinking, man, the one who got rat got the bum end of the deal there.
Yeah.
I will say, I do want to point out they are in Africa, right? Because these are all plains animals. Yep. Cool. Then why is Megatron a T-Rex? We have no fossil evidence for them in the plains.
All the Predacons are either insects or they are dinosaurs.
Yeah.
But the wrong dinosaurs. These are the type of things that keep me up at night.
Velociraptor. Yeah, Dinobot's basically a Velociraptor.
Dinobot is a Velociraptor specifically.
I think if in the 90s, like, you literally had to have a Velociraptor. If you were anywhere near a dinosaur, the Velociraptor marketing board were strong and influential.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, but yeah, we're fresh off. By fresh off, I mean like 3 or 4 years after, like Jurassic Park, which is like the most, at the time, the highest grossing movie of all time.
Jurassic Park
Power Rangers with air dinosaurs.
Yeah, Jurassic Park toys are still coming out in '96. All the
Yeah,
different
I mean,
dinosaurs.
video games are still coming out in 96. I remember you were getting sequels to the movie tie-in games, even though Lost World wasn't out yet. It was just like,
I
okay.
I collectively want to hear what both of you think the plot of these first two episodes is, like what the actual plot is.
So they crash on a planet. There's Maximals and Predacons. They take their respective forms. Megatron gets pissed at Dinobot because that's the Starscream Megatron dynamic. Dinobot's like, fine, well, I'll just lead the Maximals. And he challenges Optimus Primal to a fight. But then Megatron's like, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna fight these guys too. And so that's basically these first two episodes.
And there's a
That is
mountain which explodes.
Yeah.
There is indeed a mountain which explodes. That
Yeah,
is very important. That
my,
would be
my,
important later.
my summary is this is basically sort of the middle of World War One, and Earth is France in this one. We've got both armies have moved in, digging their trenches for what is going to be a long battle of attrition.
I mean, it's interesting to talk about Transformers, especially in the G1 context, because that's kind of what Earth always was in the context of Transformers. It was always this battleground that was going to be ruined by the Cybertronian Civil War. Like that's really what this is. And again, this is goofy and it's animals, but you got to remember that the Cybertronian Civil War is in the background of all of this. And that is a very important piece to talk about. Because the reason why they're on Earth to begin with is because Cybertron can no longer support life. Like, that is part of the background history of a lot of this, is that because of the Cybertronian Civil War, Vector Sigma no longer works, which means that there is no longer energon on the planet, so they can't sustain life anymore. Plus, they don't really get into the quintessons here very much, but the quintessons are a big part of that. Anyway, nobody cares about that. But that's kind of the weird thing that we always kind of need to take away from Transformers media, is that as goofy and weird and giant robots in disguise it is coming off of essentially a religious and caste-based civil war that is happening on a planet of all inorganic creatures. And their planet is also the dead husk of their dying god. So it's a very metal franchise. And then you
Sounds
have
very,
people.
yeah. It sounds very Warhammer.
It is.
It's funny you mentioned that because the opening sequence reminded me of Battlefleet Gothic, just because of how the ships are designed and how they were basically doing broadside attacks on each other. It was like, this is it's very Battlefleet Gothic. So person who's seen their second TV show after playing Warhammer. I have a question. Do those people in the stasis pods ever come up again? Because that was very confusing to me. It's like, why jettison half your crew into space?
So there will be a point where they do come up again. It's gonna be more important in Beast Machines, which actually sucks.
So I'm safe, because that was, to me, is like they always like the noble thing to do. Is like, that's infinitely more disturbing. They're just like floating in space. Like, well, thanks, Optimus.
Optimus Prime. The thing about Optimus Primal as compared to Optimus Prime that I think can get a little confusing is that Optimus Primal is, in this particular case, a younger character than Optimus Prime himself is. Because, like, man, the thing to kind of remember about Optimus Prime is that he is a war veteran and also kind of the robot pope. Because the Matrix of Leadership does make him a religious figure. And man, it is so weird to talk about the mythology and the cosmology of Transformers sometimes. But Optimus Primal is not that character. And that's part of what tells us that he's very different, is that not only is he not being voiced here by Optimus's amazing voice actor, who has been him for years and is still him for a lot of his appearances. When Optimus Primal is a younger character with a younger crew and is doing more of an exploratory mission, as opposed to what happens on the Arc 1 in G1 Transformers, where they're fleeing the Decepticons and they end up crash landing on Earth. So it's a very interesting dynamic that's already been set up for people who know Transformers. For people who don't know Transformers, you're getting a lot of very classic beats. You're getting the Megatron and Starscream relationship. You're getting the leader who is trying to keep things together. You're getting your plucky side characters. The thing I like about Beast Wars is that for people who haven't seen Transformers, it is still accessible, but for those of us who like Transformers a lot, there's a lot of extra stuff there.
Yeah, this I said at the start, these episodes throw a lot at you in a very short space of time. I have to point out, I love the ending of episode 2 in the most. We are now talking directly to the investors, where Optimus basically breaks the fourth wall to explain the plot to you in great detail. Like, there are some more Energon and Megatron is still here. We will fight, and we will call it the Beast Wars. It's like, usually you wait a bit to name the war after it ends. But, go you, Optimus, get that branding in.
Yeah.
He's copyrighted it immediately.
Did this air as a two-parter? Because it could have.
For the debut, it was 2 different days, 16th and 17th.
Okay.
I presume they must have bundled them together at some point.
Yeah. Because it does feel like this is a two-part intro. Because we'll end it planting our flag, our freak flags, and we're the Beast Wars.
The Beast Wars have begun, they have.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because of how much this show is going to change between season 1 and 2. I like to call it reboot syndrome. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Canadian television show Reboot.
Yeah.
But about halfway through its run, it changed hands a couple times, and then they turned Enzo into Cable from X-Men. Like, that is just what happens. He gets his eyeball cut out. A lot of stuff changes. It's not that it changed hands, but Beast Wars got very comfortable in itself, and it got a lot darker when we get into season 2. And that kind of established a lot of tone for what Transformers was going to be going forward. It is goofy. It is weird to think about, but that's kind of the beauty of it. It is also an extremely memed Transformers show. I know that everybody knows Megatron with his rubber ducky going, yes, but that's half the fun.
Yeah, very Tim Curry is Megatron.
It's a very Tim Curry Megatron, and I love it. It's so different from the other Megatrons.
To be fair, the thing that really throws me out is, I know the animation is dated, but it's so weird to think. I was reading some of the production stuff on this, and it's like how big of an undertaking this show was to animate. Then you go, man, I could probably do it on Blender today. Like, not to this quality, obviously, I'm not that good, but you can make like these landscapes, just that's 20-minute render in Blender now. It's like, we had to leave it on for 2 days. Like,
but it still had that like wow factor, right? Like, I remember it was, we were doing a Johnny Quest movie earlier, and I remember like the Real Adventures of Johnny Quest that followed it had Quest World, which had its own kind of version of CG sequences, and those were so cool as a kid in the mid to late 90s. And I think you kind of get the same effect with Beast Wars, because it was like, it's Transformers, but in CG. And now they're animals for some reason. And it's like, oh.
I think you've got to remember, Toy Story 1 came out in 95.
Huge.
Toy Story 1 was what made CG acceptable in public, I guess. It was the film that sort of cemented that CG can be something more than a gimmick. And if I would go back and watch the first Toy Story if you haven't recently, because it's not as good as you remember visually. It's still very good as a film, but visually, like, it's still very primitive. So the fact that they were doing this on a weekly TV show was great. Obviously that's why we get our now. I love it. We can only be around Energon for a minute before we all die. Such a classic like Ultraman trope of like, that's expensive. So the hero can't do his superpowers because that costs money.
Yeah. No, it's again, it's why these episodes are 20 minutes a pop.
It's also really cool because other than Reboot, like Beast Wars and Reboot were like the first like fully CGI animated shows on TV. Like, I think Reboot definitely came first. But it's wild to think about now because of what CGI has become. Like, looking at it today, it is janky. It is weird. You could do it. I could do it in Blender. But at the same time, what a massively important piece of media that involves dinosaurs and robot cheetahs.
That's kind of cheating.
It is the best show that involves robot cheetahs, dinosaurs, and gorilla robots.
You say it now. Someone's going to send us emails because there is presumably like some Russian series.
Yeah.
Someone out there is going to be like, first of all, how dare you?
And
Second of all,
adapted the Brothers Karamazov. They're all CGI.
You know
oh my
what?
god, I'd watch that.
I would watch a Transformers anything, but any adaptation of Dostoevsky with Transformers, frankly.
I would recommend Last Stand of the Wreckers for that.
Yeah, or
But
I'd say this is where Alyx says that exists.
Yeah.
I am curious. So far, for the two of you, who is your favorite Beast Machine, Beast
Probably
War
Primal.
character?
It's Primal. It's Optimus Primal.
Primal.
I like the Rhino because people can ride around on him, which makes sense when he's a Rhino, but also feels kind of rude when you think he's a soldier. Like Optimus just hopped on that guy's back, like, mate, you're his superior officer. You probably shouldn't be doing that. That gets you kicked out of modern armies.
Cybertronian HR is not very good, just FYI.
Well, because they can only be out for a minute. They have to keep transforming back into a fish.
I like the idea that the HR rep is a fish. But I have a very special love for Dinobot and Rat Trap. Dinobot in particular, because his character here is very much the like, I'm gonna stab you in the back no matter what we do. But there's also something very different about his kind of Starscream, where he says, like, I prefer to fight in a certain way. Dinobot, as a character, as we are going to watch him develop, is more of the proud warrior guy that kind of brings him more in line with Cyclonus in the G1 continuity than it does with Starscream later on. But he starts here and ends up as Cyclonus later. And it's a very interesting thing, the character arc that this character goes through, and I'm very excited for you guys to be part of that journey.
I'm just excited for the druids to turn up.
Oh, the druids are great.
Oh, good. They actually are. So they said they store Stonehenge as like, oh, lovely.
Well, it's primitive man, and that's how Waspinator becomes God.
Oh, that's what you do at Henge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm genuinely not joking.
I hope we get a Primal crossover. I think that would be cool.
That would be cool.
Like if Spear and Fang ran across the Maximals and the Predacons. I think it would,
Just getting so confused when they turn into robots.
Yeah.
So we will be getting more characters joining us as the series goes on. Do you want to guess what kind of animals we're going to be seeing out of the Beast characters?
I mean, we already mentioned tarantulas.
Isn't that the girl as well? One of them is a girl.
Oh.
There will be a girl. There will be two girls, in fact.
Ooh, from the 90s. Progressive.
Yeah, take that, Cowboy Bebop.
Is one of them pink?
That Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, it's one of them. What's the pink? RC. That's the pink car.
RC does not turn up in this, but we do get a different female character. We will see her. She also got a shout out in the live action Beast Wars movie. But yeah, we're going to be getting a lot of different characters. There is an ant character who is going to be very, very fun. One of my favorite Predacons. But what I would love to know what other questions you guys have. So
John,
many.
You got the list.
You've covered most of them. Mostly, like, I'm really curious how we're going to get from what I just saw to what you were describing, because I'm just like, this is just weird. One thing I am curious about. This is just for a general creative question for you both. If they landed where you live, what would they get for animal forms? Because I was thinking, if they land near me, they're going to get fat black squirrels, which are just a genetic dead end, dumb raccoons, and small yappy dogs. It wouldn't be a very interesting beast war. I guess one, and then Megatron would be a moose, I guess.
That would be horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's deadly. Kill you more than the raccoon can.
If they landed in New York, they'd end up as pigeons or rats, or alternatively, the alligator that some dude is keeping in his apartment. Like that, and that's the thing you got to remember about where I live is that the wildlife here is rats, pigeons, and anything that has crossbred between a rat and a pigeon. But then you have the weird stuff that people keep in their apartments.
That'd be a
Yeah.
great way to keep the budget down with everyone.
The Resident Evil 2 alligator in the sewers is going to be figuring in prominently.
But
Any final thoughts on this? Because
Yeah,
I've been
Go for
memeing
it.
on this, but I had quite a good time with it. I
I
do.
mean, it's of an era. Like I was saying, I remember enjoying the CG as a kid because it was still novel at the time.
I kind of
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had 5 more minutes. I think this episode probably goes a little bit fast for its own good, especially in that early episode 1. We go from the crash to them all being animals, them having their first fight just so quickly. I mean, that's probably because I'm old, but yeah, I think if this had been a 25-minute show, that would have all flown a bit nicer and could have given us enough time to breathe. But that would have cost 50 grand more, so I can see why they didn't do that.
Yeah. Any more from you, Sam?
We'll see. We'll see next. We get new stuff next week. So we have that to look forward to.
You said that like the guy in The Shining. That'll be new stuff next week.
I feel like I've hurt you physically with this choice.
I'll take this over Sailor Moon, or at least Deke Dub Sailor Moon, because it's as God intended, as opposed to like the Deke Dub of Sailor Moon butchering it beyond all initial intent.
Excuse me, as Waspinator intended, apparently.
Waspinator.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love for Transformers, obviously. It is my special interest. What I like about Beast Wars and what I continue to like about Beast Wars is the fact that it is starting at a really weird and goofy place, and then it is going to stab you in the heart and have you ask some very existential questions about the relationship between identity and faith as we move forward throughout this show. Like the first 2 episodes feel to me at this point in my experience of the show and of the franchise in general like a bait and switch. It is goofy. It is setting it up, but like not to get spoiler heavy, but for those of you who remember Dinobot and what happens with him and his Sermon on the Mount that happens, and as we learn more about what the Maximals and the Predacons are actually there for and what they actually end up doing, it's kind I feel like John doesn't believe me.
But no, I'm worried what you're implying.
Oh, you don't even know how wild this is going to get. But I have a special love for it. I'm excited to be watching it again with you guys. But that does mean that we have pulled into our final destination. That is right. It is time to disembark from Toonami Absolution. We want to thank you again for talking with us about the shows that made us us and the shows that made you you, especially the show that made me me. Once again, we are your hosts. My name is Alyx.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John.
And we'll see you next time. Bang.
Roll out.
Terrorize!